In the midst of Donald Trump's flurry of assaults, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett would not blink. Relaxed and unfazed, but cutting in her presentation, she dropped a proposal so off-guarded, it put in its place the very foundations of an argument everybody had assumed without question. What had started as another political spat in the harsh glare of studio lights was on the verge of becoming something volatile. The studio hummed with tension. Cameras panned in, the crowd prepared for sparks. Everyone anticipated a standard barrage of talking points and fiery repartee. But from the opening moments, this evening was different. On one stage sat Jasmine Crockett, calm, composed, eyes sharp enough to slice through tension. On the other, Donald Trump, fiery, combative, and never one to back down when the spotlight burned brightest. And it was already obvious. This wasn't going to be a civil discussion. Trump charged in with hissing words, not with plans or policies, but with personal criticism. His voice burst with that signature ferocity as he leaned in close to the mic. He called Crockett dishonest, claimed she had no business speaking for the people, and laced his speech with shadowy charges of secrets. Each sentence wasn't a discussion. It was a try at breaking her down, bit by piece. The crowd could sense the gravity of his words like arrows flying across the room, and in the unrelenting light of the camera, everyone else would have faltered. They might stumble, nervously defend, or even crack under pressure. But Jasmine Crockett sat firm, standing tall and steady, her eyes fixed on Trump, like she'd been waiting for this confrontation all along. That only made Trump push harder. He yelled, interrupted her whenever she attempted to get a word in, and described her career disintegrating before it even had a chance to start. He wasn't debating, he was attempting to destroy. But then, something intriguing occurred. The more Trump bellowed, the more serene Crockett got. While he flailed about with words, she took the blows in silence and composure, the way a boxer allows an opponent to tire himself out in the ring. And behind those intent eyes, Crockett made a decision. She recognized that she couldn't shout louder than him. Trump had won in that battle. In order to cut through the din, she required something far greater, and she possessed it. Behind closed doors, she bore a secret, a deadly reality that threatened to explode the carefully crafted aura of mystery that hung around Trump and his inner circle. She hadn't wanted to let it out. Not that evening, but as his knives sharpened, as he ceased to engage in debate and attempted to demolish her reputation, Crockett saw it, saw the moment she had been keeping in reserve. She edged forward, her hands firm on the desktop. Her tone remained even, cutting through his interjections with a newfound authority. The audience had no idea yet, but Crockett was going to turn the script around, and she was starting with Ivanka Trump. By going into that territory, Crockett crossed a line that few would dare tread. Everyone knew Trump would be throwing barbs at politicians all day, every day. But bring his family into the fray. That was holy ground, and Crockett had just charged right onto it. The audience wasn't expecting it. The hosts weren't expecting it. And even Trump, fast on his feet and ready with retorts, hadn't anticipated it. Tension mounted. The atmosphere was charged. Cameras zoomed in closer. Millions inclined towards their screens. And then, suddenly, it all changed. With a single firm, biting sentence, Jasmine Crockett took the stage and turned the evening on its head. The air was charged, live, thick, ready to burst. Jasmine Crockett had weathered Trump's tempest, the yelling, the name, calling, the trying to blow her off her feet. But now, the dynamics were set to change. She hunched forward, her voice lowering to a slow, calculated rhythm. All eyes fell on her, and then, softly, as if to cut through the din, she uttered, "Sometimes the truth about family history is in plain sight, and it is time to come out." One sentence, just one, but it landed with the force of thunder. The studio was stuck. The hosts suspended in mid-breath. Even the viewers at home could sense it. The moment when everything shifted for the first time all evening, Trump didn't lash back instantly. For an instant heartbeat, he said nothing. Crockett allowed that silence to build, to stretch out so that it was almost unbearable with anticipation. And then, she went and dropped another line, one that rattled the room to its foundations. "There is substantial reason to doubt the account that Jared Kushner is the father of Ivanka's children." The shock was immediate. Gasps swept through the crowd. A host blinked, as if unable to comprehend what he'd just heard. Even a camera operator almost dropped the camera, the lens yanking at the sheer weight of those words, and the millions at home craned in, hearts racing, knowing something unsafe had just come into view. But Crockett hadn't released the entirety of the truth. Not yet. She had sown only enough to shatter the earth beneath Trump, enough to put the world in doubt. The hosts frantically worked to stabilize the moment. One spoke cautiously, his voice shaking at the margins. "Congresswoman Crockett, do you mean what you appear to mean? Do you mean that Ivanka's—" He caught himself short, too paralyzed to continue. Crockett gave no direct answer. She sat back, expression unreadable, letting silence speak louder than words. Trump, however, erupted, his face flushed crimson as he jabbed a finger across the table. "Lies. Disgusting lies," he roared, his voice reverberating through the room. "Fake garbage, an attack on my family, because you've got nothing else." The louder he yelled, the less contained he seemed. Words tumbled over one another. Denials were frantic, desperate, like trying to jam the genie back into the bottle. His body pushed forward in sheer force of hostility, attempting to bury the conversation under noise. But that response only added gravity to Crockett's words. The audience could sense it. If there was no substance to her accusation, why was he so desperate, so agitated, so angry? The hosts felt it too. They probed once more, gingerly but persistently. "Congresswoman, you've opened something remarkable. Do you have more information? Can you clarify what you said?" Crockett's eyes darted to Trump, then to the hosts, unfazed, unwavering, her tone low but stern. "I believe the American people are entitled to honesty, and sometimes the narratives we're given don't align with the facts we discover." The sentences hovered in the air, tautening the moment. Trump attempted again, louder, more bitter. He hurled accusations of shame, conspiracy, personal grudge. His anger shook the desk, his hands thumping on the wood as if violence could obliterate the words. But the more he shouted, the more serene Crockett appeared. And within that tension lay a potent reversal. Trump's anger only enhanced her credibility, her silence more persuasive. The audience wasn't ready for full evidence presented yet. They weren't ready for proof in black and white. They just needed the seed, small, perilous, impossible to unknow. What if Jared Kushner isn't the father of Ivanka's children? Aunt Sohn, that question couldn't be covered up again, and Crockett knew it. She hadn't even given the full bombshell, not yet. By this point, everyone in the studio realized one thing. Jasmine Crockett was no longer a participant in the discussion. She was controlling it. Her measured cadence of speech, the deference in her voice, had taken hold of the broadcast. And whatever happened next, everyone knew it. It was going to be different. The moment she alluded to that secret truth, Donald Trump's veneer started cracking. Not gradually, not slowly, but explosively. Like glass breaking on a marble surface. He attempted to mask it first, a wobbly smirk, a chuckle that didn't meet his eyes, wagging his finger and saying, "Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. Nobody believes that nonsense." But the trembling in his voice betrayed him, and in just seconds, the facade crumbled. His complexion went bright red, his jaw clenched hard, and he burst across the desk as if he could tear the moment back by brute strength. His voice boomed, shaking the mics. "Lies, pure lies. This is a disgrace. She is a disgrace to say rubbish like this on television. Shameful." The hosts shifted uneasily, their voices breaking as they attempted to cool the fire. But there was no keeping it in check. Trump's words thundered louder, more quickly, rolling over Crockett, rolling over the hosts, rolling over anyone who had the temerity to say anything. He wasn't arguing anymore. He was strangling the conversation. But the louder he yelled, the more obvious Crockett had struck something thin. If what she was saying meant nothing at all, wouldn't he have dismissed it? Smiled and shrugged it off? Called it ridiculous rumor. That is confidence. You wave it off, you don't blow. Trump wasn't waving it off. He was coming apart. And Crockett. She sat motionless. No raised voice, no insult hurled back, just quiet, unblinking stillness. Her eyes fixed on him, as if she could peer through the fury to the terror driving it. It resembled two boxers in a ring, one wildly swinging with sloppy, undisciplined punches, the other standing firm, allowing the tempest to exhaust itself. "No!" Trump bellowed as he cut off yet another host. "She's not going to sit here spreading disgusting lies about my family, about Ivanka, about my grandchildren. It's evil. It's sick. And you're all letting her do it." His palm came crashing down on the desk with a crack that reverberated through the set like a gunshot. The crew jerked behind cameras. The hosts interchanged worried glances, and millions in front of their TVs witnessed it too. Trump wasn't merely fuming. He was rattled. That was the time Crockett uttered a word again quietly, but with surgical accuracy. "Mr. Trump, if what I said was not true, why are you so scared of it?" The question hung in the air like smoke no one could blow away. The room froze. For the first time all night, Trump faltered. His mouth opened, then snapped shut. And when words finally returned, they carried none of the confidence he was known for. Just raw, frantic denial. "This is disgusting. You're trying to ruin families. You're trying to destroy lives. Lies, all lies. Shameful." But the anger had turned. It no longer slammed the room. It exposed him. Because now, with every fresh cry, every pointed stab of his finger, he sounded less and less like a man who was in charge, and increasingly like a man who was afraid to lose. And meanwhile, Crockett sat quietly, cool to the fury, and her quiet was more resonant than his fury. Every no he threw only served to give more weight to the chance she had sown. The hosts and their voices strained, nearing a whisper under the gravity of it. "Congresswoman, this is grave. You are saying you have evidence, real evidence." Trump flopped, his voice pleading, interrupting with both hands flailing wildly. "Don't say that. Don't you dare say that." But Crockett didn't even glance in his direction. She kept the host pinned with her eyes, her voice firm, unflinching. "The American people deserve the truth, and I think the truth will speak for itself." And in that instant, the studio hosts, crew, viewing audience at home, saw it plainly: Donald Trump. The man who boasted of dominating every stage and commanding every camera had lost control. He wasn't shutting down Crockett. He was amplifying her. His rage only fueled her soft, slicing calm. The authority had changed, and Jasmine Crockett had simply yanked the rug out from under him. The confrontation had changed. It was no longer Trump against Jasmine Crockett. It was Trump against his own rage, and losing red-faced slamming the table, words tumbling out quicker than microphones could record them. Trump seethed with lies, conspiracies, shame. His voice was full of fury, but next to him, Crockett remained still, hands clasped tightly, eyes fixed ahead, as serene as stone. The hosts leaned forward, voices shaking. They voiced the question every home viewer was muttering under their breath. "Congresswoman Crockett, are you saying you have proof?" A pause of silence lay over the studio. Trump's chest rose and fell with fury. The crowd caught their breath. Crockett did not blink. When she finally replied, her tone was soft but razor, sharp as broken glass. "My investigation revealed compelling evidence that contradicts the received narrative. Evidence pointing to surprising family ties, ties leading all the way back to Donald Trump." The air itself seemed to crack. Gasps filled the mouths of the hosts. Camera crew personnel looked at each other in shocked silence behind the camera, and viewers at home felt their hearts thumping. Trump erupted. "Lies, total lies, made up by losers, by haters who want to destroy me." His fist slammed the desk again, voice cracking under the strain. "This is garbage. You're disgusting for even saying this on air." But Crockett leaned forward, her words slicing clean through the noise. "I worked for months on this investigation. I interviewed individuals close to your family. I confirmed documents never intended to see the light of day. I charted timelines, Ivanka's pregnancies, your movements, your personal comings and goings, and the trail is unmistakable." The studio reverberated with noise, whispers, gasps, creaking chairs. The hosts seemed petrified. Cameras shook under trembling hands. Trump's denials became frantic, falling over one another as he flailed his arms as if he could literally bar her words from the audience. But Crockett became more transparent. "I have proof," she continued. "Whistleblowers from your own ranks who could no longer keep silent about what they had discovered. Leaked pictures, written accounts, proof that sharply contradicts the version you've peddled to the public." Trump slammed the desk once more, bellowing, "None of it is true. They're liars. You are lying. You are trying to ruin my family because you can't beat me any other way." But it was not the same now. People did not witness a man calmly swatting away lies. They witnessed a man disintegrating on live television, unable to keep in check the panic below his rage. And sitting next to him was Crockett, quiet and immobile, her calm slicing deeper than any scream could. Then came her next words, slow, measured, each one striking like a nail into the coffin of repressed silence. "I did not want to be here, but tonight, after you attempted to brand me with fake news, suddenly, I will no longer remain silent. The American people should know who is making their future, and what is being hidden behind the backs of closed doors." The room went silent. For a brief moment, even Trump was speechless. His eyes swept frantically, trying to find an opening to wrest back authority. And then, like a wound suddenly prodded, he exploded once more into denial, louder, more hysterical than before. But the damage had been done. Crockett had opened a door that would never close. She hadn't just intimated secrets. She had catapulted them onto center stage. Not whispered, not hidden in esoteric papers, not slipped out in back channels, but live in front of millions, uneditable, unspinnable, unforgettable. The host struggled to fight back the debate. Trump seethed with anger in the studio. The audience remained in shock, and interwoven between shouting and gasps was one undeniable fact. This wasn't politics any longer. This was power, truth, and secrets capable of shaking a family and possibly shudder the nation itself. And with each angry denial, Donald Trump only made it seem less like a shocking slur, and more like Jasmine Crockett had just landed the truth right between the eyes. Lights blazed hot, cameras zoomed in closer. The studio hummed like a live wire, and the world knew they weren't watching another political fight. They were seeing history split wide open on live television. Donald Trump continued raging, his voice echoing off the set like thunder in a soundproofed room. He bellowed of conspiracies, of shadowy enemies, of powers determined to bring him down. His fists pounded the desk over and over again, as if brute force or brute vocalization could somehow wipe away what had just been said. But the louder he yelled, the emptier. It rang. His anger wasn't quieting the moment. Instead, it was nourishing it. And there she was, Jasmine Crockett, firm as steel, tranquil to the point of being unnerving. While Trump was thrashing and boiling, she emanated the silent authority of a woman who knew the fight had already been won. Each Trump denial just reinforced what she had said. Each tantrum enhanced the contrast between them, his turmoil and her tranquility. And lastly, when the hosts wrangled a tenuous respite from the tempest, Crockett leaned into her mic. Her tone was gentle, but charged with iron. "I didn't bring it forward to malign a family," she started. "I brought it forward because when private tomes inform public authority, the people have a right to know too frequently. Those in charge peddle an image that does not align with their truth, and that gap, it is consequential." The studio stood still. The hosts rested their foreheads in their hands, mouths agape. The audience was silent. Crockett continued, "Tonight, I exposed this live because if I hadn't, it would be buried, locked away, unchallenged. I believe in accountability. I believe that the truth doesn't belong to the powerful. It belongs to the people." Her words cut through the heavy tension like a knife through fabric. She hadn't even presented all of her proof, and already the message was clear. This was not the end. This was Act 1. A start. Trump, though, dived deeper in. His voice broke as his rage climbed higher. His face grew redder, and his hands cut through the air. "No one of this is true. It is a hit piece. She is a liar. She should be expelled from Congress. She should be sued." The anger shook the set, but something had changed. His voice no longer held the braggadocio of assurance. It held the jagged edge of fear. Fear the question Crockett had unleashed into the universe could never be jammed back into silence. Fear the seed of doubt had been sown in millions of minds where no word of denial could eradicate it. The hosts, shaken and pale, attempted to continue the show, but there was no continuing. Not after this. The tension stuck to the air like smoke that would not dissipate. Every person in that studio was aware they had just stepped into history, and every viewer at home was aware they had just seen something unfiltered, raw, unforgettable. Then came Crockett's last blow, measured, unflinching. This isn't about me. It isn't even about you, Mr. Trump. It is about truth, because when truth is buried, democracy itself is at stake, and I will not stand idly by. And with that, she was finished. Trump continued shouting, his face red with anger, his fists pounding the desk, saliva flying as denials broke over the set in waves, but his clamor no longer counted. Crockett's words lasted longer than his decibel level. The cameras saw it all, the anger, the tranquility, the impact of power against truth. And when the broadcast went to black, one question beat in the minds of millions watching. If this is what Jasmine Crockett was willing to share on the air live, then what else is she keeping under wraps? The answer would not be forthcoming that evening, but the seed had been sown, and no matter how deafening Trump's anger grew, the reverberations of her disclosure would never subside. For the first time in years, the supposedly rock-solid Donald Trump appeared shaken, and the world had just seen it happen. Live. Just now you witnessed power and truth crash headlong on live television. And one thing is certain, this saga is only just getting started. If you care to see what is next, who is saying what comes up in evidence and how deep the story goes, be sure not to miss the follow-ups. Subscribe, follow, and keep your eyes open, because the whole truth, it is yet to be revealed.